Let's talk about properties. Down by number 7 here. Now the instructions say, write an example that illustrates each property. So you need to come up with an example. Let's talk first about the distributive property, number 7. See, with these, maybe think if you can come up with one on your own and then kind of check and see if mine matches what you're thinking. Now, when I think about the distributive property, I think about a number being on the outside of a set of parentheses, and then something like x plus 2 being on the inside. What the distributive property does, and here's what you need to show, is that the distributive property says that 7 times x plus 2 is the same as 7x plus 14, which is 7 times 2. So that's an example of when you use the distributive property. Let's slide over to the identity property of multiplication. It's multiplication, so I know it's going to involve a multiplication sign. Remember, we talked about identity is where the number keeps its identity. It stays the same. Identity is like talking about what a person or what a thing is. So if it keeps its identity, think about it this way. What do you multiply by and it keeps the same identity? What do you multiply by and it stays the same? Well, that's what happens when you multiply by 1. So you just pick a number. I'm going to pick 8. 8 times 1 is equal to 8. Illustrates the identity property of multiplication. 12. Commutative property. Talked about that keyword commute being your commute into work is the same as your commute back home. And we're talking about multiplication. So that means 4 times 5. That means like on your way to work, you drive by McDonald's and then Krispy Kreme. When you go home, it's the complete opposite. You drive by Krispy Kreme first, and then you hit McDonald's. 4 times 5 is the same as 5 times 4. Well, pretty similarly, you're talking commutative property of addition this time, the commute to work. Let's make it 4 plus 5. That'd be the same as 5 plus 4. Now, sorry that I'm kind of working across here, but oh well. Associative property of multiplication. Now, associative. The phrase I used in class that helps me remember is that, oh, I don't want to associate with this person anymore. I want to associate with a different person. It's kind of like you move a set of parentheses. It's who you talk to first or who you want to associate with first. So we're talking about multiplication, and this one is the one that I like to use parentheses to describe. And let's just pick two numbers. Let's say 3 times 6. I know I'm going to be multiplying. Times 2. What this property says is that I used a parenthesis to specify that, okay, in this instance, I'm multiplying 3 times 6 first, and then I'm multiplying by 2. The 3 and the 6 are buddies. They're multiplying together first. But on the other side, let's say I'm going to do 3 times 2, and then multiply by 6. It's like the 3 got really snotty and said, no, I want to hang out with the 2 now. I don't even want to associate with you 6 anymore. It's like you use a set of parentheses basically to say, we're going to do 3 times 2 first and then multiply by 6. Okay? The gist of it is, if you're multiplying 3 numbers, so I got a 3, a 6, and a 2, it doesn't matter what order I multiply in. So 3 times 6 is 18, times 2 is 36. Cool. Over here, 3 times 2 is 6, times 6 is 36. That's an example of the associative property of multiplication. Similarly, if you're talking associative property of addition, I use parentheses to kind of describe it. Let's use 1 plus 7, and then I add 4. Will that be the same thing if, let's say, the 1 gets snotty and, no, I want to associate with the 4 now. Get out of my face, 7. And then you add the 7 last. It's the same thing because 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 4 is 12. 1 plus 4 is 7, 1 plus 4 is 5, sorry, and then add 7, it's 12. So bottom line, if you have three numbers and you're adding them all up, it doesn't matter what order you go in. Last two. Zero property, I'll give you a hint. It involves 0. Okay? And you're multiplying. Now let's pick a number. 10. 10 times 0 is 0. Yay. That property says anytime you multiply by 0, you get 0. Last one. Identity property of addition. Identity, that key word. What keeps its identity? And we're talking addition. So what can you add to a number and it still keeps its identity? You can add 0 to any number and it keeps its identity. For example, 9. If you add 0 to 9, you still have 9. The property says if you add 0 to something, it still keeps its identity. All right, nice work on those properties.